Hi, my name is Jada Foltz.
Cool. What is your major at UNF?
I'm a communications major, specifically for public relations.
Okay, cool. So, politically, where would you identify on the spectrum?
When I filled out my voter registration card, I said Democrat, but I'm more of like social leaning, like I want it to be more liberal than it is.
Yeah, gotcha. More progressive than Democrat? Gotcha. So, do you believe that there is a social division in America as well?
Very much. Even within my own family, I can definitely see.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So why do you think that is? I know it's a broad question, but what are the reasons you think the division is here?
Very relevant question. Let me think of how do I want to phrase this. I've been doing a lot of studies with social media, and I really do think that as far as tools go for the internet, we're currently creating a whole bunch of echo chambers.
Mm-hmm.
And so my Instagram feed is different from your Instagram feed, which is different from my aunt's Instagram feed. And so, sure, we want to believe in the marketplace of ideas. We want to believe that we can choose the best one if they're all presented. However, with the algorithms that are currently in place, we're just circulating the same ideas from the same people. And if you believe in that, you'll get more circulated ideas of things that back it up, true or not, false facts, or whatever you want to call disinformation. That's what it is. If you tweet or repost misinformation, you're more likely to have additional misinformation in your feed.
Yeah.
I would say that is the number one problem that I could put into words.
Right. That's actually a very good answer. That makes a lot of sense. So one thing, and it's amazing how this has become political. COVID is polarizing. If you're red, then you typically believe you don't need a mask and that things don't need to be open.
Yeah.
If you're blue, typically you believe everyone should wear a mask and everything should be closed. That's like the extremes, I guess.
Yes, you're right. It does go into a continuum because you can fall anywhere between the red and the blue.
Right. It seems that the two extremes have the loudest voices but also lack the most context.
You're right.
How do you think that happens?
Like I said with the echo chambers, if you have one voice that's screaming something and you don't want to hear it, you have the option of turning it off, switching it off. If you don't want to hear that science is happening and that people are putting on masks or two masks or wearing even thicker masks, you'll, depending on what you're reading, you'll either feel the incentive or you'll feel validated in your opinion of not following CDC procedures.
Do you think that Donald Trump fuels the fire of division, I guess, is what I was more so trying to get to?
Well, I would say that the state is currently divided. There is definitely oil, water seem to be at odds with each other. They elected him. They wanted him. I wasn't old enough to vote when Donald Trump got into office. It was probably one of the biggest letdowns of my whole life, and I had never felt that way, but I'd also really never paid attention to politics up until then. When I say that the fuel to the fire, I think of the already water oil consistency and Donald Trump just being the fire that, oh my gosh, it just keeps spreading, it just keeps spreading, it just keeps getting worse, and now we can't even touch it. It's hot. It's oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I don't know how to put that into words.
No, I get it. Who do you think is affected most by our social division?
Definitely still the minorities, definitely still the homeless, definitely still people with disabilities. I watch Netflix because I'm in the house and I'm not going outside, and I was, I think it was the Cecil Hotel, and they were talking about a downtown area of LA that's just all homeless people. And I was like, first off, they don't tell you that in school, but I had to watch Netflix to figure that out. But also, I want reform to help people who don't have any place to go. That's the social justice that I would like to strive for. So the fact that minority communities are hit the hardest and African American communities top of the list. Also, this is a completely separate issue, but Native American sovereignty, I feel like even within our own borders, we have allies we're not helping. it's frustrating because I'm just a young person I'm listening to everybody talk and nobody else is listening to each other.
It's a selective hearing that's going on. They're not listening to listen, they're listening to respond is what
I've heard that. I feel that.
Do you believe that we can become united again?
I believe if young people like us and people with hearts and souls talk to each other rationally not without bias, but with identifying our bias. We all come into situations with bias and identifying that and our privilege in the situation, or for every privilege, there's a disadvantage. So who has the disadvantage? If it is minorities, we need to address that. We can't just go,
Name is Hunter Tipton.
All right. And what is your major at UNF?
It's biomedical sciences.
Cool. So politically, like on the political spectrum, where would you say you identified?
I like to be open to anything that is a reasonable and good idea. But for me, that tends to be a little bit more towards the left side of it right now. So I'd say more like a independent left.
Gotcha. Yeah. Cool. So do you believe that there's a social division in America?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So why do you think that is?
I mean, it's honestly probably something we've had for a lot longer than right now. I just think a lot of people seem to think it's because of, like Trump coming in, but it's been it might just be because of our two-party system. It just kind of breeds division.
Right.
I don't know if having, like 3 or just abolishing parties in general and having people run on their own platform might help, but
yeah, that would make the most sense in my opinion as well. So I guess, yeah, those are some main causes for it. Current one right now that I kind of see is COVID. Somehow that got basically, if you're red, then you believe that, well, typically you believe that masks are pointless, you shouldn't wear them, and that they're infringing on your rights and everything should be open and whatnot. And if you're blue, then typically you believe that everything should be closed and you should always wear a mask. Do you think how do you think that that's gotten so political? Because it's a health thing, it's a pandemic, but somehow it's a political topic.
I mean, that itself definitely started from the Democrats versus Trump just idea of it, I guess, where he was never pushing for the science side of things. He was always like, oh, it'll stop. Yeah. And then the Democrats tried to push against him so much rather than just trying to find some sort of common ground for the types of people that just can't understand what's going on, that it just splintered off into a political thing.
For sure. What kind of, who do you think is the most affected by this division in our country?
I mean, I would almost say right now, just because of how the election turned out, the hardcore Republicans are most affected because they feel like everyone's out to get them.
Right.
And they've lost everything, and then obviously it was stolen from them and all this stuff, rather than just saying, okay, you know what, we will try again, rerun the next time. Let's get our stuff together and become a party. So I think they're going to come out most affected, whether it be the people that is voting for the Republicans or the actual party itself, because they're kind of falling apart right now.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think that we can ever become united again?
Yeah, I think the younger generation that's coming up on both sides, Like I've seen some of, I forgot what his name was, but there's the, I think he's 24, and he was the paraplegic that ran
I know who you're talking about.
one of the southern states.
Addison
He
or something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, he seemed fairly reasonable. Like he understood, I think, just because he's our age,
Yeah.
that you have to cater to certain things,
Right.
while also still protecting his, his own values. So I think once we get more people like that coming in, that can find common ground, it might get better.
So, what is your first and last name?
Hunter Clark.
Okay. And so, politically, where do you identify on like the spectrum?
Like Republican or Democrat?
Yeah, left or right, conservative, liberal.
I'll say left.
Left. Okay. Do you believe that there is a social division in America?
Yes.
Yes. And why do you think that is?
What do I mean, just different cultural opinions, I guess.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
What do you think are the most divisive like topics out there? If you know what I mean?
I mean, there's a lot. I would say definitely more like the cultural issues, like abortion and stuff like that. I would say those are but also economic issues.
Yeah. Gotcha. So who do you think are most affected by these social divisions?
Minorities and the poor.
Yep.
I would say that.
Cool. So do you see a route where America can become more united again?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think it'll take?
Just embracing everyone's rights and yeah, that's